This is Short Hammer. It is the 4th of April, 2021, and this is Trading Zones. My apologies, missed you last week. Just, moving around a bit, just busy, so much going on. Things are opening back up all over the place, things to do, right? Um, but just looking at this made all-time highs. And if you look at this, once we reversed here, above this 38.88, then we'd watch for the 39.20s right here. And look at this squeeze. And what you really wanted to see was a rejection here. But what we saw was a push into a drop back into the 39.67-ish area. And then we just legged through, right? That's just beautiful, beautiful execution here. Beautiful execution. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Um, this upcoming week, what I'm going to watch is for any retraces. This thing is pushing hot and heavy, and I'm sure quite a few people missed this excuse me missed this rip. And whenever, and this is probably just me feeling that something is true that may not actually be true, but whenever the bigger money people, right, that may be trading 5, 10 million, 20 million, 30 million or more, if they miss this because they were out of the office, my expectation is always that there will be a pullback to pick those people up and then they'd run it back through the top. Not some scientific, researched fact or anything like that. Just my opinion, my humble opinion. So for me personally, I'm waiting for this to pull back and then I will ride it. If it pulls back to a level that I like, we have 40.15, 39.98, 39.77s, right? It'd be cool to get a back test of the previous highs, the 39.80s area, but that might not happen. So we'll see how this all works out. I usually trade the Qs. I just really like how the Qs move. And so that's what I'll be watching. Let's check out the RTY. You might hear a little bit of background here. Just a lot going on. So nice little break and pull. We're not at all-time highs here. Isn't that interesting, right? So we'll see how this works out as far as the small cap and financials, if they're able to sort of rip through and buy back up here. But remember, the market is interesting, right? That sometimes you have financials that's the leader, and sometimes tech is the leader, right? Tech has been depressed, and it's sort of trying to catch up. We'll see how the market balances those things. My thought is that just looking at Goldman Sachs, it's impossible, in my opinion, and I'm probably 100% incorrect with this opinion. I don't think that it's going to stay up in those 300s, right? And so I do believe that we're going to go back down. So we'll see how that plays out here. It is good that some pressure did come off on these pullbacks, and we'll see how this reacts if we get a strong enough push to make new all-time highs on the Russ. We'll see. Like, you just got to watch it. Like, there, regardless of what you think or what you feel, um, the charts will play out, and your responsibility as a trader is to adjust those opinions. Before I go, adjust those opinions to fit what you're seeing on your chart, right? Don't let your opinions and your thesis override what the chart is telling you. So data first. So we see the 2290s, 2301, 2313. Technically, you should also be watching the 2340s and all up through here, the 2350s, and this high here. We'll see how that plays out. But this is a nice little rejection here. What we want to see, if you're bullish, is a buyback up above this 2290s and a pop of the 2313s and just a squeeze. If we see selling here and we dip here, you really don't, want to get back down here around 2247s, but we'll see how this plays out. But I will definitely keep a side eye on this, even though I really don't trade the Russ much at all, to be honest. All about the Qs. Amazon, loving Amazon and its movements. So if we're watching Amazon, when we were, let me see, where were we? When we were here, I believe. No, hold on. No. Here, right? So what you watch for me is the 3080s, which is here, and the expectation that we would get back up there if we're not seeing bearish candlestick formations below this 3020. And this is on the 4-hour, right? My expectation is when we see these lower wicks like this, my expectation is that we're going to buy up, right? Because this is showing me that there's a rejection to the downside twice. Here, rejection. Here, rejection. They're telling me we're not going down, and we're just trying to get back up here. So for me, I had a channel that was the I believe it was the 3020s by the 3140s, and it's like a short-term miniature channel, right? And then we had to get through 3080s, but above the 3140s, this does open up the 3190s. If we get back over the 3190s and are bullish, this will be interesting. Look back at this date here, the 27th of January into the 1st of February. Look at these wicks, and we bounced and went back up. And when we sold, right? Check out the 23rd of February to the what is this? This is all the 23rd. Check out the 23rd of February when we dropped to the lower portion of the channel, the 3080 by the 3220s, and we bounced back up into the 3190s, and we could not clear the 3220s again and rolled back over, right? And came right back through the bottom. All these pullbacks, all these pops, you fade, right? Just couldn't get there. And this buy up here, for me, what I'm watching for is, can we jump over the 3190s? And if so, are the 3220s in reach? What do we do at that level? And I'll extend this out, right? Because these lines are interesting. And remember that area, the 3080 here by the 3220s, we were stuck in this channel for so long. And even when we left it, we were pulled right back into it. Gravitational pull back into it. Exploded up, think we're going to go right back into it, right? And so this is an interesting area that we're back in again. And so I want to see if we're able to buy back over the 3190s and 3220s. To the upside, you already have these lines, right? 3268s, 3344s, 3370s. To the downside, 3140s need to hold. 3080s below that, 3068, 3020, 2950s. Wide range. We'll see. Tech may have come back to life. We'll see how this shakes out. But Amazon is definitely interesting. Heading on over to Netflix. Netflix. So, what did we see on Netflix? What we were saying, watch the 493-ish area, see if we get through that. And we didn't, right? We're sort of above that. We did see a break above the 504 by 507. Look at this pullback and this buy up here. Now we're gone. So now we're back up here at right around the 540s. And what we remember is that all the pushes into the 550s and above were sold previously. We tried to break the pattern here on earnings when we pushed up almost into the sixes, right? And we pulled back, and our expectation was, hey, is there a possibility that this previous area that was a supply area for Netflix, that the buyers would step in and pop us and run us through the 600s? The answer was no, right? And so Netflix has been under pressure. So right now we're buying back up into the 540s by that 550s-ish area. And what we want to see is, do we get multi-day bullish candlestick formations above that level? And if not, then we probably headed back down. So we have to see how this plays out. If this ends up being sort of a repeat of these previous levels, let me scrunch this up a little bit. A repeat of this, a push through these 540s. How many days are we above? 1, 2, not even 2 days. Back below. Here, push up through, back below, push up through, back, selling right back through, push up through, trying to get through here and go, selling back through, back test, fail, right? Buy up through, came back down, we touched it. That should have been the ricochet, and we run. drop back into this trend. Look at this trend line here. Break, trying to rise, back below, back test, and down. So the strength that we'd expect to see on Netflix, in my opinion, we have not seen. And so Netflix, quite a few tech stocks have just been weird. They've just been kind of meandering and really haven't had the directional push that we usually see from the tech sector. So we'll see if we're able to get back over this 542 area and what we do in the 550s if we get there. And if we're strong and bullish and we squeeze through this into the 567s, 575s and go higher. Or if we begin to sell and we don't get multi-day bullish candlestick formations above these 540 by 550s. So that's what I'm watching for on Netflix. Keep all these levels in your mind, the 535s, the 529s, down here around the 507, 504s. If we retrace the 5 teens is also interesting, like right in this area here, the 518, 17s. So keep your eye on Netflix. Very interesting. We have to see if we break over those levels. Headed over to NVIDIA. NVIDIA being NVIDIA, we sort of, you can see the dip here. For me, this is a nothing zone. I wouldn't do anything, even though you kind of see this area here, this 499s is something. It is something, but I avoid that. Right above these 514s is where things get interesting. And down here around the 475s is also where things get interesting, right? When you're going to get that 460. Whenever you see these green lines, for me, those are called swing doors. Above, a little bit more bullish, below, a little bit more bearish. So this buy up here, we're right through the 530s. See the hitch, right? Right through this area, the 536s, and we're right above the 547s. If we have rejected here and sold back below here, we'd expect a dip. So if we'd rejected at the 536 by 547-ish area, I'd have been a little bit more bearish, but we're above. So we want to see if we hold these 547s and we get a buy through the 555s, which will open up the 589s on NVIDIA. So this is all very interesting. I'm going to watch how this plays out and what the continuation looks like in the market. Next up is Apple. So Apple is not as, in my opinion, as strong as the other names. And Apple really needs to get back over these 127s, but we'll see how this plays out. We're above the 121s on Apple. We held the 119s, our swing door, green line, went below, didn't spend, too much time below, bought right back above. Quite a few people went long off this area, and as you can see, look at this riding. And if you look at the previous videos, this is not a new line, right? This line has been here. So if you were able to catch a trade off of this, not off of the for me, right, on a heavy sell or heavy buy, heavy extension into an area that I really feel is a strong area, I usually I do counter trade that, right? So this dip here, couldn't play it because it's not during the day, but this one here, you play that, right? And the next day, you're out. You don't spend too much time there. Next dip, it's not the first test, so I wouldn't be playing this. Regardless of that I have a line here, means absolutely nothing to me because this area here is a strong area. So I'd wait, and once we bought back above this, you wait for the pullback, and you don't see any bearish extension below. We're not seeing selling. We're not seeing the sellers say, "Hey, this area is dead to us. We're going down." They keep buying this up. You ride it, and me be out of the next level at least 75 to 80% of my position, and I'll leave the rest to ride. But look at this ride through, right? So now what we want to see here, since we're holding the 119s, is can we see a potential rise through the 127.40s and see where we can go from there. Things are opening back up. We have to see how it plays out, but there's definitely momentum for not just Apple stores, but for everything to open back up, and that should give a rise to a stock like Apple, right? It should definitely give a rise to them. That just because if you remember when they closed their stores in China, that was a blow to them, and the stock did go down, right? So now if things are opening back up, that should give you the opposite reaction as things open back up. You should expect more business and more people to be going through to purchase phones and also to get their phones repaired. So you should see a rise. We'll see. But watch these levels. We do need to break the 124s, then the 127s. Then we have to see what happens. If we hold here and we go back below the 121s and the 119s don't hold and we sell through here, then I'll have a different perspective. But I do want these 119s to hold, and I do want the buyers to drive us up through the 127s and keep it going. Even if we go do a little bit of sideways consolidation here, tech has been a little bit wonky, and it'd be good if tech could sort of begin to lead the way again for us on the way up if you're bullish, right? So we'll see how that works out. And kicking caution to the wind, Microsoft is off to the races. If you remember, the statement on Microsoft was Microsoft, I believe they have three different divisions. All three divisions beat um, pretty well, right, on their last earnings. And so these dips are an opportunity to get long. So this dip and this sell down here is an opportunity, right? And you don't jump in all at once. And this is just look back at some previous videos. This is not hindsight 2020, but this is interesting, right? So what we were talking about was you watch these 220s on Microsoft. That's an interesting area that if we need to get below these 221s, these 220 mids, a very interesting area that we projected in the past, that when we dip down here, buyer stepped in here, is even a stronger dip, but we don't really see bearish continuation, meaning multi-day red, lower, low, high volume candles. Don't see it. And so we're back above the 229s. And you can see as we dip down here, the buyers are pushing us back up, right? Nice push here. I'm not in this. I do have a buddy that did call this down here and rode this back up. So we want to see what happens. Are we going to push through the 244s to make higher highs? We want to see that. Let's do it, right? So let's see what happens here. If we slow down here in these 244s and we don't make higher highs, that may be an opportunity to get short to see what happens, right? See how it plays out. Keep your stop at all-time highs. So not saying to take that, but that's something that I would take in a low risk potential may just play vertical off this. So that's something that I may do a vertical off of this or something like that. Some low risk strategy, just in case it pops. I'm not really gonna pay attention to it. Probably won't be watching it, but I want to see how this plays out over the next few. So I'll watch when we enter this area above the 244s. If we get there, I want to see how it reacts. And if we're strong through here, there's no trade for me. But if we're kind of choppy and it's indecisive and the market looks a little bit funky, then I might take that type of a trade, right? But watch your levels here. This is very interesting. 240s, 242s, 244s. Nice rise. Nice rise above the 231s. Nice rise there. Head over to Facebook. So Facebook being Facebook, if you remember, our statement on Facebook was, I believe it was watch the 264s by 268s. And if this is the buy zone, this area right here, because of all these rejections, we're like, hey, if we get above this and then we hold the pullback, we're going to go. Watch the video, look at the dates, watch the video. We're off and we're above this swing door area. We held higher, came back down, held it again, pushing it up here, higher highs. Let's see where this goes. The levels we have above this 303, 307. We're right above this 297 area, which is an area for us, one of our supply demand lines. Below that 291, and below that the 279s. This area right here, the 280, 60s, it looks like, is an interesting area and has been an interesting area on Facebook. I will extend this line and we'll see how this plays out. But I do like where we are at the moment on Facebook. We have to see if this continues, but I would be playing it based on these lines on pullbacks and probably using intraday pivots and EMAs to look for the perfect setup on Facebook. But Facebook is definitely looking pretty good. Let's see how this plays out though. INTC, nice push here, pullback holding above this little channel area that we mentioned before, buying it back up, going sideways, the 63s. So if the 63.70s hold, look for a push to the 65.50s. Next up, 66.30s, 67.50s, and 68.50s. But all these levels must hold as we go up. For me, I would not be looking for a swing play on this. Even though the company has been pretty strong, for me, it may be at the most maybe 2 or 3 days. I wouldn't be looking for anything long term, but just this level to level, you can probably play this, right? Um, Gotta love it. So if we hold above here, just look at this area. This area, this 63.70s to the 65.50s. Did it here, pulled back, up and back. We had this breakout, pulled it right back through below, bought right back into it, and we're here again, right? So we want to see if we get a rise to the 65.50s and what happens there. They need to break this pattern. We need multi-day bullish above the 66.30s to open up the 68.50s, 69.09s, and higher. That needs to open up. So we'll see how this shakes out on Intel. I do not have a position, and I'm not going to put on a position on Intel. But this is interesting. Definitely watch those levels. CMG, um, kind of meandering in my opinion. What you want to see is bullish above the 1468s. What we don't see is bullish above the 1468s. So if I'm watching this, I need to break above the 1468s and bullish extension to the 1510s for us to go, right? If we get above the 1468s, you really have to watch the 1510s. Look at this candle structure. The last few times we've pushed into that, we haven't been multi-day bullish above, right? We're pulling right back through it, right? So you need multi-day bullish above the 1510s to open up the 1600s. Am I saying we're going to the 1600s? No, but I'm saying for that to even be a possibility, right? If you know how people like to trade out of the money options at times because they have an expectation of something either selling off or something running. So my thing is you need bullish above the 1510s to even open that up, and we have not seen that, right? So we need to get above the 1468s first, and we'll see how that goes. Watch the 1421s, then the 1394s, but we need an extension above or buying above the 1460s, 1468s for us to really change this, just the feel to me of this chart, right? And CMG, I do like the company. They, ever since the gentleman that used to, I believe he used to run Taco Bell, and he worked for Yum Brand before he came to CMG, but he turned that company around and he's really been doing some great things. So definitely believe in the leadership. And even when they were a little bit ahead of the curve, when they said that they would have a slower rollout of new restaurants because they wanted to make sure that each new restaurant had a drive-through. Had no idea about a pandemic or anything like that, but that was a plan that they had going forward, was to be able to have a drive-through in Chipotle restaurants. So we'll see how this plays out, but I would like it a little bit better above the 1468s, and that will at least give us room to the 1510s, in my opinion, at least. We'll see. Jetting on over to McDonald's. McDonald's doing exactly what we expected. What was our statement on McDonald's, right? We got to get above the 216.90s, above the 216.90s. Watch out. We got room up to the upside. Watch out for the 220s. Check the tape. We're there now. So now that we're here, do I have faith that we're going to run to the 230s? No, I do not. My total expectation was from the 216s, once we were bullish above this, that we were going to push into the 220s, and we're there now. So I'll be watching McDonald's. Watch for a potential push above the 226s. 231 is another level. So watch 231, 226, 223, and 221. This may just meander back and forth. A break above 226 multi-day bullish. Watch out for 231s. This is an interesting setup on McDonald's. And we thought that they would, that they would do well. If you remember, during the pandemic, and everyone, I don't know if you have kids, right? But for me, I mentioned in a video probably a few months ago that how much time I was spending going back and forth to McDonald's. That's changed now. But my kids just loved it, made them happy, right? And when you're home and you've got your kids at home, even though you may not agree, um, There are little things that you just do to make them smile. And that was one of the things that they did enjoy. And it was really easy, whether you were ordering for delivery from McDonald's or going to pick up. They really did a good job of the execution of that, right? I really liked how they did that as a company. So definitely think McDonald's was one of those companies that in my opinion, as far as how they service clients that were at home or through the drive-through, they did well during the pandemic. For me, as far as my customer service interaction with them, definitely appreciate the way McDonald's handled their business. Um, though I may not agree with the food. Different conversation. So, moving on. Let's check out a little bit of Dollar Tree. Just a peek, just a peek, just a peek. Um, 106s, nice rise here. We have to see if we get continuation above this. We do look strong above the 115s. Let's see. Um, this may be, yeah, wowzers. So we have to see if we continue here. But above the 115s, this is interesting. I'm going to have to get with Elisa and see about some pivots because this thing is looking insane. If this continues to squeeze, I probably will look for a long position, but we have to see. I have to really check out this chart. I have not been trading Dollar Tree, but watch for the pullback into the 111s. This break, if we see bullish extension multi-day above the 115s, we'll have to find some new levels to play on this. For me, I like an extension because I'm a retracement trader. I prefer if this thing breaks then pulls back, it'll give me a level to trade back to rather than trying to play the breakout, right? Even though stronger tickers do tend to get stronger and weaker tickers do tend to get weaker, my preference is to do the retracement play because for me, I feel more comfortable in that seeing sort of where the chart has gone before and kind of following where I believe the supply and demand zones may be, right? Um, if I'm not doing that, then I'll be using Elisa's power of pivot strategy to sort of play it because for me, I'm more comfortable in a retracement area, right? That's where I'm more comfortable. But everyone trades a little bit differently. Um, Nuts, but are we surprised? Things are opening back up. Durable goods should go up, right? A lot of people just got their stimulus checks. And there is a conversation about improving or not improving, increasing is the proper word. Increasing the amount that you get, like the child, I think it's isn't the earned income tax credit when you have children. I'm not quite sure, but either way, people are going to be buying durable goods, right? This is the time that people do usually buy. We're headed into tax time. People usually replace their appliances and things of that nature when they get, large sums of money in. So whether it's, washer, dryer, refrigerator, don't be surprised if their numbers for the for next earnings are pretty good. We have to see, right? So we have to wait and see. But keeping an eye on Whirlpool. It's a super spready, weird stock to trade. You just really have to be with whatever direction the momentum is taking it, and you have to ride that wave. That's just, and even if you, it's really hard if you're going to get into Whirlpool to think that you're going to hop in and you may initially like it's just immediate, you're right, it goes in your direction, you get paid. Sometimes it'll meander on you, it'll pull back, but you got to trust your levels and trust your thesis on Whirlpool. Whatever it is that you may believe on it, you have to trust that. And I don't think I have any lines above here. The 216s was the level, the 204s was the level. I love the way that this thing just bought up, but I am not going to be trading Whirlpool, to be honest, at all. But looks good. If you're bullish, you may keep going, but I'm not touching that. Um, FedEx, we do like FedEx above the 258s. We're more bullish than not. It did have some struggles getting through here. Remember this area? We did play that. Um, but once we're above here, you see this extension to 271. The pullback in the 258 is an immediate long. Why? Because we had struggles getting through here in the past. So when we were breaking down the pullbacks to this area, the buyers were getting out and the sellers were selling it, right? Once we break above this and get an extension to the next level, a pullback to this previous area that used to be a supply area is now a demand pocket. You take that long. And so it did go right back up through the 271s. Nice. Look at this pullback to the area again. We dipped below. And so the buyers popped us back above, made higher highs. So FedEx is one of those tickers. I know quite a few people were underwater on this when it was selling off. And the expectation was that they would be vindicated at earnings. And it looks like as if that's the case, right? So congratulations to those of you that are in FedEx. Oh, I have to go mention Tesla before I jet. Tesla, this down here, anything in the 500s, I call the Sophie level because she's probably long off of that. Probably long the house. Just There's just a level where she will be long. And we're watching right now. We need to get back above the 713s because that's been a rough level to get back above since we've sold below. We don't see multi-day bullish above that. The 600s is an interesting level. The 601s to 590s is an interesting level. Like this bounce, but we really need to get over the 713s. So we've got buckets here, right? We don't want this thing to sell back down below the 650s into the 616s. You want this, you want Tesla to go. Tesla really means a lot to the market right now. And when Tesla has a bad day, usually the market doesn't have that much of a good day, right? So what we want to see here, if you're bullish on the market, you do want Tesla to rise back above the 713s and get us to squeeze to the 780s. But we'll see how that plays out. We see these levels on Tesla. Keep an eye on these levels. Another thing to think about as we watch bonds, the dollar, and all these different things, right? Do Goldman Sachs real quick. So Goldman Sachs, we're seeing this drawdown, this pullback here. So what I would watch if you're looking at Goldman Sachs above the 330s, it could rise to the 337s, but we need to be bullish above the 337s to regain the bullish tilt to this ticker. I do believe that if we stay below the 330s, then we're going to drift to 319s. So you really want the buyers to step in, push us back above the 330s, and for us to get that squeeze into the 337s. And once there's decision time, if the buyers are going to really trust the push, bring us above and knock those sellers out and give us a pushback through these tops. We have to see how that works out, right? But right now, below the 330s, I'm not as bullish, and I'll be watching to see if we see selling down to the 319s. Have to see how this opens up next week. Over to the SPY. And yep, there we go. Nice push here. So the levels I have on the SPY 398s, 396.70s, 395s, 393s. We'll see if this continues to go. What I really want to say at the end of this is for those that believe the market was going to die and it was going to be nonstop selling, once we get to a certain point, you have to kind of flip and wait for the buyers to step in, because at a certain point, it's no longer worth getting short at the bottom, right? And not saying that that's the bottom and this is the bottom, because no one knows where the bottom is. But once we've pulled back a significant amount from the highs that we were previously, always expect buyers to step in, even if it ends up being sold. You don't like once you see this dip and this dip, right? Once we're down here, I wouldn't be shorting this. Look at these lower wicks. I wouldn't even be shorting this, really. Maybe on an intraday scalp, I'll scalp this for a few points, but I wouldn't be short this. When I see these wicks, that tells me that there's a rejection to the downside, even though we sold a little bit lower. Look at this next day. And we dipped. Look at these wicks. These wicks are telling me do not be short. And sometimes, you could be wrong and you could miss a big play. But when you see these wicks, you got to be careful, right? You really have to be careful, especially when it's multi-day, right? When it's just once, that's different. When you see multi-day, that there's a rejection to the downside or rejection to the upside, that may be telling you something, and it's not the be all end all, but it's one of the little clues, one of the little data points that you may take to use when you're comparing it to a few other data points, just to give you an idea of the probability of something being successful. But yep, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to tap that like button. And if you like this content, like to receive more content like this, please go to our YouTube channel, Power of Pivots, where you can look forward to not just receiving videos from me, but videos from Elisa as she shows you how she utilizes her power of pivot strategy to find great pre-market, intraday, and post-market plays. She also loves to do swing setups. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful week of trading. Stay safe. And as the weather turns, enjoy the weather. Definitely, it's definitely a change in the air as far as with the pandemic. Quite a few states are opening up. Please remain safe. Have a wonderful week of trading. Thank you again.